Okay, let's get this show started. Welcome everybody to Launch Class, lesson number 6. We're very excited that you're here. This particular class is called Finding and Choosing a Good Mate. And frankly, I think personally this is a really important one. Because if we can find and choose a good mate, well, we might have a good marriage, we might have good kids, we might actually improve society because divorce is so high. But before we get started, and I get into some more welcomes, we'll do a little bit of, see if we can learn something from these guys.
Across the street? Why did you tell me that? Oh, so that we know who he is?
So I can play with him.
She's my wife.
No, here's my wife. Here's my wife.
You're tired.
Yes, I'm tired and I want her to be.
But she's my wife and you're tired.
No, she's my wife and I'm tired.
So are you sad? Because why?
I don't want to marry Grandma.
You want to marry Grandma? Well, you can't marry Grandma, honey. She's your grandma. Right?
My grandma.
I know you love your grandma.
You asked me. Sure. You asked me. Sure. No, you asked me. If you can marry me.
Baby, who is that? Is that your boyfriend? And what are you going to do? You're going to marry him. Should you ask your daddy first if he can marry you?
No.
Oh, when daddy says no, then he can't marry you. What are you going to do? Run away?
So, I guess we get started in life at a young age, kind of wanting to get married. Must be instinctual, right? In the animal kingdom. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that, strategies, how to do that well. But before we go there, we commend you for being here, because you could be doing lots of wonderful things tonight, and our hats off to you because you want to learn, and perhaps some strategies for finding and choosing a good mate. My name is Coach Al, and the other coaches have similar name tags, and we are here for you. We're voluntary, and we are excited to help younger people to more successfully launch into their families, careers, relationships, health and fitness, you name it. Lots of different subjects, as you probably saw on the website. And so it's all about you. You've heard it said it's not about you. Well, today it starts, it's all about you. And as we kind of expand, which we'll talk about, well, yes, if it's all about us, we're not going to be that happy. So we need to expand our horizons there. So we'll often refer to the 7 areas of life, and we'll touch on this life choices diagram here. So this is just something that came up through our men's group that some of us have been part of for a number of years. And it's just a way of looking at life, trying to understand what's going on, and perhaps help us make decisions. 7 areas of life. There could be others, could be 6, could be 5, depending on who you talk to, probably could be 8. But in this particular one, this came from Zig Ziglar, if anyone has heard that name. Old success motivation author, speaker. Spiritual, family, social, financial, career, physical, and mental. And of course, we're talking about finding and choosing a good mate tonight. So that would be more the family side of things. Obviously social, a little bit. So the idea here is that we have to make choices. That's why it's called the life choices diagram. We make choices all the time. All day, every day, we make choices. Do we want to go towards the problem and deal with it, or do we want to go away from the problem? We call that escape over there. Fun, food, pleasure, shopping, etc., etc. The idea here is we're really after, automatically, we're kind of naturally after lasting peace, happiness, confidence, fulfillment. It's just basically what's happening between our ears. It's a feeling, right? That's kind of what motivates us. So often we'll see a problem, frankly it could be a goal, and we don't feel like it. It kind of scares us. That's why we call this the corridor of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so what do? Our tendency, our natural tendency is to go away from the problem, turn left instead of right, and do some escape, waste some time. And, well, we'll do some fun over there. It'll give us a little bit of, joy or happiness, but very short-lived, right? So we want to encourage others and help others and coach others and, be your encouragers to go after the 7 areas. And these are actually they're all 7 are applicable to our lesson tonight, actually, as you'll see. Part of the idea is that when we do that, when we turn right and go towards the problem, God meets us there. And for sure, He will meet us there if we ask Him to, but the Bible says, be strong and courageous, and don't fear. And so this is what we're encouraged to do. And God will meet us there, and God will help us to deal with these things. And that's part of the idea, is it's not nearly as hard as we think it is on the surface. That's basically the idea there. So we want to go here, and then we'll get more lasting peace, happiness, confidence, fulfillment when we work on our problems, and we go for our goals, that kind of thing. So that's the intro. We use that as we look at life, help us make choices, and we'll try to help. The goal is to help everybody improve and get strong and confident in all these 7 areas. As you've probably seen on the website, there's lessons for all the different areas. So we'll get back to this one here. So last week we talked about finding and choosing a good career. So today we changed one word, finding and choosing a good mate. Next week's lesson will be on marriage and parenting strategies. So after you find the good mate, now we might need some marriage and parenting strategies. So both are related. Naturally, they're related to this thing called the divorce rate. I think the next slide talks about that. But the divorce rate, what does it say here? Why is this important? Because the divorce rate is so high, for one thing. The second point there, the high rate of divorce is one of the most harmful problems in society today. Most people have a sense that that's true. It's over 60%, I just read today. And it's no different in the church as far as I understand, frankly. So our level of peace, happiness, and satisfaction is very dependent on the quality of our marriage. Therefore, it's the second most important decision in our life. Naturally, you ask, what's the first most important decision? Can anybody guess? What do we do about Jesus, this guy named Jesus? We're not going to get into that tonight, but that would be the first most important decision in life, because that affects everything and our eternity. I won't go any deeper there, but today, who we marry for sure would be the second most important decision in our life. Divorce results in higher levels of, this is affecting the kids, academic, behavioral, psychological problems in kids. Even worse for them than the death of a parent. Statistics show that kids are more harmed from divorce than the death of a parent, as hard as that is to believe. Children are more likely to suffer abuse, poor relationships, divorce themselves, low self-esteem, health issues if they come from a divorced family, unfortunately. They're more likely, less likely to thrive, be all that they can be, have good marriages themselves, and they're more likely to repeat the cycle. So this is one of the, we think, the biggest problems in society. That's why in launch class we want to help and focus on relationships, strong marriages, and one of the more important things of how to have a strong marriage is how do we choose? How do we choose our mate? So that's what today's all about. So if you have a look at the study material before the class, this subject called Finding the Love of Your Life is a very popular topic. You can do a search on the net, you'll find a ton of material. So those 2 videos on there, one is by Nate and Sutton, a young couple. I thought it was excellent, and they have a lot of videos on there. I was surprised. I hadn't seen them before. But they had a good one on there, a short one. But then the long one was by Rick Warren with this subject title, Finding the Love of Your Life. The author, that word comes from an author named Neil Clark Warren. His book is of the same name, and it's a phenomenal book. I read it many, many years ago, and I recommend it to everybody. I couldn't find a copy of it because I've lent it out. But I found that you can read it for free, actually, on this website, openlibrary.org. I'd never heard of it before. But that book, Finding the Love of Your Life by Neil Clark Warren, is a free ebook that you can read for free on that openlibrary.org. Neil recommends a few different things, but the biggest one I remember from his book is the idea of write down your top 6 to 10 must-haves that you're looking for in a potential mate, and your top 6 to 10 can't-stands. What are your must-haves? What are your can't-stands? And then he says, do a lot of dating. And I'm going to refer to this book in a sec. This is another book by him that came subsequently to that first one. This is called Date or Soulmate: How to Know If Someone is Worth Pursuing in 2 Dates or Less. So that's part of his idea, is figure out what you really want, understand yourself, figure out what you really want, write it down, know what you're looking for, and be able to read somebody, so to speak. Size them up on the first 1 or 2 dates so you don't waste your time, so you don't get emotionally attached, so you can make a good decision, and then do that with lots of people. And then through that you learn and you grow and you kind of figure out, yeah, I think I like this in a person, or that in a person, or not. And during our small group time, after large group right now, then we'll have a small group. In our small group, we will do that. We'll do that exercise. We'll get everybody to write down, if you're single, write down your top 6 to 10 must-haves and can't-stands. So it's starting this process of getting prepared to find the love of your life, finding and tracking down your mate, so to speak. So he also highly recommends that we don't make these mistakes. Being in a hurry to get married. Huge, huge. Naturally, we want to get married, right? We don't want to be in a hurry. And what he says, 2 guidelines: don't marry too young, or don't marry too quickly. He says be over 25 when you get married. Don't marry too young. And date for at least 2 years. Because he says we want to get to know our potential mate in all the different scenarios, all the different environments that we might encounter. And I will add that you want to, I think is what he talks about. Yes, you want to experience conflict. How do they deal with conflict? And that'll be an important thing, because we are going to deal with conflict in any relationship. And we definitely want to find out how our potential spouse deals with conflict. Can we together deal well with conflict? You know, that kind of thing. He says trying to please someone else is not good, like our parents. It's a common thing, right? He says don't do that. When you're making this important a decision for the rest of your life, someone who's going to be hopefully your soulmate for the rest of your life, you can't be doing it for somebody else. Having unrealistic expectations, such as marriage will solve everything. We dream when we were kids. At least we've heard that women dream of this knight in shining armor that's going to solve all their problems and rescue them from all their problems. Obviously, he says don't have unrealistic expectations. And I'll add that yes, our spouse can fill a lot of the void, a lot of our challenges, but ultimately they can't fill them all. Ultimately, a different topic, God is the only one that can fill some of those voids. And so we can't expect our partner, our mate, our spouse to do that. And lastly, he says don't marry somebody with personality problems. He goes into all the different types of personality problems in the book. But there could be lots of them. And he says don't bother. Just like Nate said on that video, Nate said very strongly, one of his key recommendations is don't settle for it. Don't settle for less than what you believe is really exciting and really compatible. Because naturally we can think, And this is what I think in this book he was telling a story actually of a gal. Why did she marry this guy? Or why did she, she wasn't married, she hasn't married him, but she was with him for a long time, many years. Why did she stay? Well, I don't know if someone better is going to come along, right? We've heard that idea. He highly, highly recommends, don't do that. Figure it out the first couple dates, or a few after that if necessary, and then move on if it's not the right one. Continued, find a person to love who is a lot like you, which is a little bit different because men and women are different, right? Obviously they're going to be different, but his website, EHarmony, you've heard of EHarmony.com, the big dating website?
Yeah.
Well, Neil Clark Warren founded that website. First he wrote the book, Finding the Love of Your Life. Then he founded, a number of years later, EHarmony. And it's all about helping us to connect with people who are a lot like us. So there's a lot of questions on there, if you haven't been there, on values and things like that. Here's one of his quotes. He said, for couples, similarities are like money in the bank. Differences are like debts they owe. So we want to have as many similarities as we can. Here's the challenge. Okay, I have a huge long list. What are the more important ones, right? So this is the part of the exercise, is to hone it down. What are your most important? What are your top 6 must-haves? And what are your top 6 can't-stands? He says passion is essential, so don't just marry or choose your mate logically. They look good on paper, right? Passion is essential, but save sex for marriage, which is what Nate and Sutton also said. Works better that way for a lot of reasons. I may as well throw this in. I can tell you from experience that when I decided to be celibate, it made dating much, much more effective. Getting intimate messes up your connections and your emotions and all that kind of stuff. You can't make good decisions that way. That's just one reason to save sex for marriage. There's many, many, many other benefits. I won't go there today, but that's why the Bible recommends it. And I certainly would as well. You need a strong, another quote, you need a strong bond, including tender attachment, enjoyment of the other's company, and friendship. That's kind of obvious, but this is what he's recommending. Uh-oh. I should have turned this off, I guess. Best partners are often others-focused, not insecure. Others-focused. Rick Warren calls that mature. As we mature, we become more others-focused. So that's one thing to look for. We won't do well with people that are more self-centered, self-focused. It's all about me kind of thing. We'll do better with people that are more others-focused, generous, like to help others. Others' happiness is important to them, things like that. Best partners are others-focused, not insecure. And here's that part, good at conflict resolution. The best partners are good at conflict resolution. No anger issues. Rick Warren says to run away or call it off. If you're actually, what he says specifically, he says more than once, but he says if you're engaged to be married and you find out your fiance has an anger issue, call it off. And anger is a serious character issue that can be dealt with, but very difficult. You want to deal with that before you marry somebody, for sure. Okay, to find/attract a great mate, what can we do? First, be a great mate. Does that make sense? We become like who we associate with. We attract what we are. We attract who we are. We attract others that are like us. So if you want to attract a great mate, first, be a great mate. Well, the next question is, how do you be a great mate? Well, we have an idea. We have a really good idea. Strive to grow in all 7 areas that we talked about. That is an attractive person. Just the fact that a person is striving to grow in the 7 areas. Not that they've arrived, not that they're great in all 7 by any stretch. The fact that they're striving to grow is attractive. It's a good character trait. Teachability, we've talked about that before, is a wonderful character trait. That's actually the 7th area called mental, which is pulling it all together. Teachability is a big one. A big high-quality character trait that would be good to look for, because you can learn and grow together if you're with somebody who's teachable, right? So, but certainly, if we want to be more attractive to others, strive to grow in all 7 areas. We will be attractive. We'll have better relationships. We'll probably have more effectiveness in our work, but for sure, we'll attract a better spouse. I think that's an okay thing to say it that way. If we're single, if we work on growing personal growth ourselves, I can tell you, for me, that would be attractive, absolutely. And like I touched on earlier, let God fill the void in your heart first, which takes the pressure off. So yes, we can be young and single and feel kind of needy, and that's natural. He would say, I shouldn't say he would say, experts would say, pursue God first. Let God fill that void, give you some peace before going dating. And then you won't come across so needy, you won't be so needy. You'll be able to do, like you talked about, 2 dates or less. You'll be able to be clear on what you want, what you're looking for. You'll be confident on saying, no, that's enough. That person doesn't fit. Remember and review people skills. Remember our lesson number 2 was people skills and relationships. If you haven't seen it, go to the website, watch that lesson, read the study material. Great material on there. That's one of the desires of launch class, is to put some great reference material on the website so that people can go back to it, study it. But this people skills one is huge, and it is a great one for finding and choosing your mate, attracting your mate. Having good people skills, for sure, will help you attract a better mate. Under that heading, be genuinely interested in others. Just one of the foundations of people skills. Be genuinely interested in others, as opposed to thinking about me and what do people think of me and desiring to impress others. No, don't go there. Just be genuinely interested in others and you will be more attractive. That's the people skill, one of the foundations there. Talk less and ask questions and opinions of others. So when we're in conversation with crowds, strangers, out in public, talk less, ask about others. Ask about them, ask about their opinions, things like that. That makes us more attractive. Never critical, always encouraging, counting our blessings. Never critical, always encouraging, counting our blessings. Easier said than done. Just some rules of thumb. This PowerPoint will be on the website. You can go back, you've got your handouts with you. Take those with you, make notes, obviously. But try to remember, think about this. Never critical. Well, our society these days, especially if you're on TV, watching TV, or if you're on social media, what is society like? It's critical, right? We don't want to be like that. That is not attractive. Not good character traits, right? We want to have good relationships. Those aren't healthy relationships. People that are in the habit of being critical and putting other people down, being sarcastic, things like that, arguing all the time. So this is an aspect of the people skills that makes us more attractive. Never critical, always encouraging, counting our blessings. Counting our blessings is huge for having a good perspective, positive perspective on life. Makes us more attractive. Lastly, hang around positive, caring people. Where can you do that? Well, the first place that I think that comes to mind is a church. A good church, a big church. A big church has more young people. Good place to associate. Get into traffic, as they say. How do you meet people? Because we become like who we associate with. So that's from the people skills one. We become like who we associate with. So think about who you want to become like. Associate with those kind of people. The flip side is don't associate with people who you don't want to be like. So if you find yourself associating, spending too much time with people who are unattractive, who are negative, who are critical, who are gossiping, that kind of thing, you might want to consider spending less time or no time with that person, because we become like who we associate with. And if you look back on your associations, you can see that. We can't avoid that. We become like who we associate with. Okay, this book, I'll touch on this book a little bit. Neil Clark Warren's our guy tonight. So we talked about his book called Finding the Love of Your Life. Now we're going to talk about his newer book called Date or Soulmate. How to know if someone is worth pursuing in 2 dates or less. Isn't that interesting? Okay, I'm going to read a couple little excerpts from this book. This is chapter 1. I'm just going to read the headings of chapter 1. So, don't take too much time. Chapter 1 says, winning at the dating game. I'm just going to touch on the headings so you get a sense, because these are just good for food for thought. First heading, how do you know if someone is, quote, right for you? First line, it's absolutely critical that you get your thinking straight about the type of person you want to marry. Okay, so says the expert. Kind of makes sense. Second heading, create your own, quote, shopping list, unquote, for a great mate. I used to use that term. We're going shopping. Friday night, Saturday night. Where are you going shopping? Second paragraph, a couple lines here. You must discover every single critical factor that will determine whether or not you can experience long-term fulfillment with a person. You can know these things ahead of time. I will help you figure out each of them on the basis of who you are and what you need to be happy. Daters who don't have the slightest idea of what they're shopping for create enormous pain. And there's simply no need to be a sloppy marital shopper. We like shopping, right? Okay. This is, now it's into the chapter called Conclusion, I think. No, this is how to make an accurate and early decision. Conclusion's next. I think this is different. So, is it a diamond to keep or a rock to toss? In other words, are they a diamond in the rough? We don't like being so judgmental or critical, but this is important that we are in this particular situation. Are they a diamond to keep or a rock to toss? That's the little chapter heading, or section heading, sorry. I'll read a couple lines. Over time, I have developed 3 principles to keep singles from tossing out a diamond that they thought was just a rock. First, evaluate every person from the inside out. The qualities that really count and the qualities that endure are those closest to the center of a person's being. I think we understand that on the surface. In other words, character is what we're looking for. Outward appearance is nice. Nothing wrong with having a nice looking spouse, but that's by far not the most important thing. Second, if a person has none of your can't stand qualities, but you're unsure if he or she has your must-haves, take your time. In other words, take more than 2 dates if you need to. So here's the conclusion from the last chapter that he calls Conclusion. First paragraph. The secret to becoming a highly efficient dater is to know precisely what you're doing, exactly who you are, exactly what you want and don't want in a marriage partner, and exactly how to read a person like a book in the earliest phases of a dating relationship. If you learn these 3 things, you will keep your, quote, romantic frustration level, unquote, at a minimum. Seriously reduce the amount of heartache you experience and that you administer. And most likely, you will move like a rocket towards the love of your life. Sounds pretty good? I'm sold. Okay, last pages. This is part of the conclusion. 3 principles to keep in mind. First, you need to rehearse the fact that a bad marriage is 1,000 times worse than no marriage at all. Second, the commitment you make to your own happiness is bigger and more important than getting married, just to be married. Third, acting decisively early in a relationship has enormous importance to your life. I've stressed this principle throughout this book, but one point has never struck me as strongly as it does now. An extremely high percentage of all marital failures are due to people refusing to terminate their relationship when they are still capable of making an objective decision. they let themselves get bonded to each other over time, perhaps even for perfectly honorable but insufficient reasons, they will often not be able to recover their objectivity and make the hard decision that could save them from excruciating long-term pain. So there's the motivation. Motivation towards what we want and away from what we don't want. So that's the foundation. Oh, I think there's a couple more here, sorry. Date or soulmate? Are we both, here's some questions. Are we both others focused? As Rick Warren would say, mature? Are we committed to and genuinely interested in our partner's happiness and success? Just think about that. If two people are genuinely committed to their partner's happiness and success, how can we go wrong? If we can keep that alive, right? That focus. Are we both interested in working as a team to make the world a better place? In other words, if you want to make the world a better place, you better find someone else who's on the same team. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. So, but naturally, if you can work as a team towards that goal, you'll have a lot of fun. You'll have a great time. Lastly, the level of enjoyment, satisfaction, fulfillment, and peace that comes from our marriage is proportional to the emotional/spiritual connection, which seems to be connected to the quality of our combined character. There's that word again, character. We would like looking for good character, right? And so what does that look like? Well, let's study that. We're encouraging us to study what that looks like. And of course, we're developing that through the 7 areas. Learning and building and improving, learning some of the secrets of success in all 7 areas. That's what we're doing. We're building our character, and we're naturally becoming more attractive to others if we're single. So that's the foundation. I think we have some questions here for discussion. So after this, we'll break into small groups. Let's discuss some of these questions. Take turns sharing with each other some of what you learned and liked about today's lesson. That's always the first question. Secondly, write down your top 6 to 10 must-haves and can't-stands in your future mate. And share about some past mistakes, if you have time. Share about some past mistakes or plans for improvement. So we can't do this in a large group. This is best for a small group. And what gets discussed in small groups stays in the small group. It's an intimate environment where we build some relationships and trust, and we can kind of wrestle with life's challenges and goals together. Small groups are phenomenal. That's a huge part of launch classes, a small group. Next, can you think of anyone else who might benefit from this message? Perhaps share it with them. Join the launch class mission to improve our society. Tell others. Invite a friend. We now have the Facebook page up, the website. Next week's lesson will be on marriage and parenting strategies. So once you have your mate, never, it's good for everybody to learn. So let's break, go to the second part. Thanks, guys.